They do it, man. They capture game two, another stressful Knicks playoff game. Jalen Brunson misses the entire second quarter. I think every Knicks fans was stressed. I think that's the best way to put it. Stressed. Just like this entire postseason, even though we've been winning more than losing, a lot more winning than losing. Knicks are now 6-2 in the postseason altogether, and all six of those wins have been very, very stressful. And thanks to Jalen Brunson and the offensive rebounding, Stan Van Gundy said it perfectly during the broadcast on TNT. He said, "What do the Knicks do in the fourth quarter? Offensive rebounds and Jalen Brunson." And that's exactly what they did. And another phenomenal performance by Jalen Brunson, missing the entire second quarter, still dropping 29 points, and then joining him, OG Anunoby and Dante DiVincenzo. And we're going to get into Devo too. We're going to take a deep dive into Devo because Devo has been going off, particularly this playoff series. He did drop 40 against the Pacers in the regular season, so I really wasn't surprised. I was kind of projecting him to kind of take a step forward in this series specifically just because of the matchup and how well he did in the regular season against the Pacers, and he's doing it again in the playoffs. And the Pacers left him wide open at one point in the quarter. If you watch that game, and you probably know what I'm talking about, Brunson bringing up the ball, gets it out to Hartenstein, and they left Devo wide open in the corner, and you never leave Dante DiVincenzo wide open, and he showed you why. I thought he already showed a lot of people why you don't leave him open. Made the most threes in a single season for the Knicks this year in his first year with the Knicks. And man, playoffs going great for Devo. So we're going to take a deep dive into Devo, but obviously we're going to get the show started with some Jalen Brunson talk because Jalen Brunson, another fantastic performance. Like I said earlier, missing the entire second quarter. Him just coming back, he looked a little shaky in the third quarter, playing a decoy kind of for the first 6 minutes of that third quarter, and then really stepping it up towards the end. And then the fourth quarter, everybody knows it's Brunson time in that fourth quarter. I think he dropped 20, I want to say, dropped 5 in the first half. So it's simple math, 24 points in the second half for Brunson, really going off. I mean, he's the bread and butter of this team. He's the engine. He goes down, we're screwed. I think everybody knows that. We're nothing without Brunson. And the MVP voting came out today, and he was fifth. And I think this speaks Brunson's value. And even though he might have not put up the best numbers, and his numbers were ridiculous, I saw a stat on Knicks Muse Twitter today. Most points scored without the free throws. Jalen Brunson leads the entire NBA with Anthony Edwards second. So shout out to those two guys, best two players in the postseason. They don't need fouls to score, and they're really taking over in the playoffs. So Brunson, along with Edwards, I would say kind of got shabbed in the MVP vote, and I thought Brunson should have been a little bit higher than 5. And this is why. This is my MVP case for Brunson. You take Brunson off this team, they're sub 500. Are they even a play-in? Like, let's be real. Who's their best player with Randall out? Who's their best player? Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby. None of those guys are taking the Knicks to the playoffs in the first round and a first round victory. You take Jalen Brunson off this team, the Knicks aren't even a play-in team in the Eastern Conference, and the West is on another level than the East, especially this year. So Brunson, he's the glue of the Knicks. We lose him, we're screwed. I mean, we saw it in the second quarter. We went down, 12 points at one point, and then he comes back in the second half, and from there on, I mean, it was the Knicks. It was all the Knicks. I mean, the Pacers did have a few runs, but that's about it. But yeah, just looking at the stat sheet, Brunson, 11 of 18 from the field. That's something, man. 3 of 6 from 3, so he shoots 50% from 3. Free throws, he did miss 2 of those free throws, which is kind of odd. Brunson, he's a guy you expect to make the majority of his free throws, so 4 or 6 from the free throw line. Not him. But then again, sore foot, and those were both towards the tail end of the game, actually. So not too surprised. And the second guy we're going to get into, Brunson, obviously the MVP of this series, probably the MVP of the entire postseason so far. It's either him or Ant Edwards. And I got to give it to Brunson because, like I said, you take Brunson off this team, the Knicks aren't where they are right now. We're also going to get into Precious Achiuwa soon, too, because Achiuwa finally getting his time with Mitch out. And now with OG out, we're really going to need to step him up a little bit. But before we do, let's get into the guy who, another valuable guy, probably one of the most underrated players in the NBA, Josh Hart, man. Back-to-back full 48-minute games. He's going to need to take a 3-month ice bath after this playoff series after the playoffs, because hopefully we get past the Pacers. I mean, we're up 2-0. And we're going to get into that too, man. We might really be up against the Boston Celtics very soon. I mean, realistically, we go what? 6 wins. We don't lose 4 games. We're going to the freaking, I don't even want to say it. But Josh Hart, man, back-to-back full 48-minute games. Tibbs, I mean, he loves to ride his guys. Pause. But Tibbs, he really loves to play his guys. And Josh Hart, he's really getting that. He's really getting that tail of the stick from Tibbs. 19 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, everybody always talks about it. I mean, a guy who's 6'4" should not be averaging. Let's see what he's averaging this postseason. 12.4 rebounds per game, and that's not counting tonight too. That hasn't updated yet, so I can get it on Stat Moves, but I don't feel like looking it up right now. But Josh Hart, I mean, what more can you say about him? You're getting everything you want out of him. 19 points, 15 boards, 7 assists, doing it all. Defense, outstanding. Let's see the blocks from him tonight. 1 block, 1 steal, 5 turnovers, so he's got to clean that up. But then again, when you're flying all over the court, getting into the paint like that, trying to draw fouls. Only two free throws tonight. So he should have got more calls too. I feel like, those are regular season fouls, but those aren't playoff fouls. When he's driving to the hoop, it's clear sometimes he's looking for a foul. So he's not going to get those. So I'm hoping that he does clean that up a little bit too. But when he does drive to the hoop, I mean, he can finish through contact. So, Josh Hart is just hard to defend. He's hard to defend because even if he misses, he is going to cause pain to the defender. He is going to cause pain. And, 7 assists, only 5 turnovers. So +2 in the assist to turnover ratio. And then altogether tonight, he was a +9 on the court. So you got to give credit where credit is due. And Josh Hart deserves a lot of credit. 48 minutes on the court tonight. And he was a +9 overall. So good for him, man. Good for him. Brunson was a +26, by the way. I didn't mention that. But Brunson, man, wow. He had his Willis Reed moment for sure tonight. I don't think as big as a scenario, but he had his moment, and I hope he continues to have his moment as the series goes on and as the playoffs go on. But OG Anunoby, we're missing him, but what a fantastic night out of him. In only 27 minutes, he drops 28 points, 4 rebounds, and a block. He also got a steal to his stat sheet. Nope, no steals actually from OG tonight, but he was all over the court. I mean, his defense this whole entire playoff series, outside of the first 2 games of the playoffs, OG Anunoby he's been a factor on the offensive end. I think that's the best way to put it. Has he been a beast? No, but he's been a factor, someone you cannot ignore on the offensive end because he will get you. And we all know the dunks, they've been coming. He can really drive to the paint. That's what Knicks have wanted to see from RJ Barrett since he got drafted. And OG is doing just that. Is he scoring 20+ points per game? No, but he's still going to give you a night like he did tonight on the offensive end every now and then. And he's going to give you top-notch defense. And he's been locking up on the floor. Tonight, he was a +10 on the stat sheet. So, OG, hopefully we get you back. I'm not going to say that, it's a kill. It's going to kill the Knicks' chances of getting past the Pacers and potentially getting past the Celtics if they face them in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm not going to say it's going to kill them if they lose OG Anunoby, but I don't think he's going to be out for a long time. I think he just rested tonight. I think it was smart that they rested him tonight. I mean, he's a guy who's injury prone. Give him his rest. We didn't need him out there. I would love to have him, but did we need him? No. So OG, we do need him against the Celtics. I would love to have him, but at the end of the day, if he is out for the remainder of the postseason, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it does, we're still going to be fine as long as we have that man named Jalen Brunson on the court. But OG, I mean, what he provides, I mean, the basketball IQ, I mean, the defense, the 3-point shooting, and I think the basketball IQ is the biggest part because Precious, he can step in and he can fill a little bit of OG's shoes, but the basketball IQ is just vastly different. You can tell. I think Eddie Presti made a Twitter post about it earlier today. You can just tell the difference of the basketball knowledge between the two. So you do want OG out there. You prefer to have him. But then again, as long as you have Brunson, you're okay. Leaves the game early with that sore hamstring. 27 minutes, though, 28 points out of him. Productive night, even though he went down early. Him and Brunson, man, giving us scares. But Isaiah Hartenstein, I put it out after the game. He's the most underrated center in the game. 39 minutes, 14 points, 12 boards, 8 assists. Plus 21 too. Second highest on the team after Jalen Brunson with the plus 26. 71% from the field. I mean, I've seen him shoot a three before, but he obviously doesn't need to take him, and he can move the ball even at the top of the key. He forces the center out of the paint, opens up the floor. Opens up the paint for Jalen Brunson to get to the hoop, opens up the paint for Josh Hart to get to drive and get to the paint, get those foul calls, get the ball out to the corner. He is even when he doesn't fill the stat sheet like he did tonight, he filled the stat sheet. Even when he doesn't fill the stat sheet, just his presence alone on the court, his defense, the offensive rebounding, you can't say it enough. Isaiah Hartenstein has been huge for the Knicks all year long. His value is really, really showing in this postseason series against the Pacers and this past series against the Sixers. And listen, man, as long as he's out there on that court, he's going to give you good minutes. So when his contract does expire at the end of the season, you got to bring him back. And obviously, you don't want to talk off season when you're in the middle of a playoff run. But Hartenstein, he needs to come back. He needs to come back. He is underrated. He can be a starting center. I think he proved it this year. He's proven it in this postseason. Hartenstein needs to come back to the Knicks. He's a must sign in the offseason for the Knicks. And he's shown it tonight, 14 points, 12 boards, almost gets that triple-double, just 2 assists away. Hartenstein, man. Hartenstein going up against some of the best centers, too. Some of the best big men. Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, Joel Embiid. Those 3 are tough big men to go up against, and he's going up against them. You saw him getting in there with Siakam earlier in the game. He was getting in there. He's not afraid to get physical, and dude, he's just a beast. He's a beast. Only 5 field goals. Only 5 field goals. But 4 from the free throw line. And then the offensive boards, man. The offensive boards. And the Knicks, they didn't even have. The Pacers out-rebounded them on the offensive end. They've out-rebounded them the whole entire game in general. But on the Hartenstein, his energy. 39 minutes in game 1. How many minutes did he have? He still had a lot of minutes in game 1, too. 36 minutes against Indy in game 1, 13.6 boards. We're going to need him to play 30-plus minutes. He only played 30-plus minutes once against Philly. Only played 30 minutes, actually, in game 2 against Philly. Similar stat sheet, too. 14 points, 8 boards. We're going to need him. We're going to need him big time, especially with Mitch out the remainder of the postseason. I don't want Jericho Sims to step in. I don't want him on the court in the playoffs. So Hartenstein, he's going to be needing to play 35-plus minutes for the rest of the postseason. Sorry, bud, but got to do what you got to do, man. Next man up, and you were up, and you're going to just have to be more up now. I guess that's the best way to put it. Precious Achiuwa, man. Precious Achiuwa coming out there for a solid 28 minutes. He was a minus 14, but, he did what he had to do. 4 or 5 from the field, 8 points, 5 boards. He was good on he did have 4 fouls, but you get 6 of them for a reason. So I guess he used them wisely. Not productive minutes, but I'd say good enough minutes. And I don't want him. I see why Tibbs is trying to hold off on putting Precious in there unless he really needs to put Precious in there. But right now he really needs to. So we're going to see more of him. We're going to see more of them. And then let's finish off with the Knicks talk with Dante DiVincenzo, because I always feel like he's just finishing off the other team with his threes, man. 29 points, 6 3-point field goals made today. He shot 50% from the arc today, 6 of 12 overall, 10 of 20 from the field overall. 28 points, man. Only 28 points. I don't know why I put 29 points. 28 points from Devo. 6 boards, 4 assists. You saw him getting in there on the boards too. 43 minutes out of him tonight. When he's playing his most important role, he already got a ring with the Bucks back a few years back, but he's playing in his biggest role. He's playing his biggest role, and he's really got a connection with Brunson and Hart. He really does. I wasn't a huge fan of the Villanova 3 coming in. I liked it. I thought Devo was a good guy. I thought he was going to be a good player. I didn't expect this. Josh Hart, I didn't expect this. Jalen Brunson, nobody expected this. But when Brunson got cooking and he wanted Devo to come, I understand. You want to bring your friends. I didn't like how it was becoming a thing, like the Nova Knicks, the Nova Knicks, the Nova Knicks. But now I'm a bandwagoner, man. I love this. I'm hopping on the bandwagon. I love the Nova Knicks, especially when the Nova Knicks are going to give you 19 points, 29 points, and 28 points. And then 25 points from him in game one. Devo going off, man. Going off, man. Really, like I said before earlier on in the pod, Devo in the regular season, he dropped 40 on the Pacers. So I was kind of expecting him to have a good series. And again, going forward, if we do, even though we're up 2-0, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Although I do expect them to walk out with the series. I'm not going to say they will. If we do face the Celtics, we're going to need more than just Jalen Brunson. And I say it all the time. I think Dante DiVincenzo can do this, not on a nightly basis, but I think he can put up 20 plus on a nightly basis. I do. You get him his open threes. Even if he's driving to the paint, he's shafty in there. He can make things happen in the paint. He's got to get like against Philly, he was only getting 25, 30 minutes. Now he's getting 40 plus. He's got to be just like Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. You have to play him 35, 40 plus minutes every single night. You have to. He's too good of an offensive player. Too good of an offensive player. You need him out there. You need Devo out there. He spreads the floor, his presence alone. I mean, right when he had that, they took their eyes off Dante for one quick second for that corner three, and he made him pay. Even with guys on him, he can cash it. He's a dead-eye shooter. Devo is that good of a shooter. So, got to give props to Devo. He's playing great in the postseason, particularly these past two games. 25 in game one, 28, not 29. 28 in game two for Dante. Playing great. Brunson, also got to get, I forgot to put this up earlier, but even though the streak ended today, that was nuts. 4 straight 40-plus point games. And let's be real. He would have scored 40-plus if he played 5 minutes in the second quarter. 3 minutes in the second quarter. He finished with 29, and he missed the entire second quarter. He's my MVP. He's my MVP. Let's talk some Mets. Pete Alonso finally breaking out of that slump last night, going 2 for 5 with a home run in the 9th inning. Also a big hit as well earlier on in the game. Besides that solo blast, a 2-run hit. Finished off the game with 3 RBIs. Struck out once, but when you hit a home run, you go 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs, you can forget about the strikeout. Mets end off winning that game, so now that puts them overall at 500, 18-18. They slipped a few games below 500 earlier towards the end of last week, I should say. But 2 in a row against a not too shabby Cardinals team, even though they're 15-21, they're not too shabby. Today's game gets postponed till a long, long time. Mets are off tomorrow. Next game, they got Braves, big series. Braves coming to the hometown of Queens for a nice old 3-game series. And then we got the Phillies. So back-to-back big series for the Mets coming up. And, you're going to be looking at guys like Lindor and Alonso in this series because if they do go to the postseason and you want to compete with these two teams, you're going to need your big-time players to perform. And 2 big-time players have been performing in his last 15 games, or actually 25 games, I should say. Last 25 games, Francisco Lindor batting .268. He's got 5 home runs in those games too. I believe an .805 OPS. So he's starting to get going a little bit. I mean, I'd like to see it a little bit higher on the batting average side, of course. But, if you're going to be hitting 5 home runs in 25 games, that's pretty good. I think a .268 batting average is pretty good if you're going to be hitting 5 home runs. That's what you expect. I think that's baseline for Lindor. I think it's hopefully only up from there, and I think it will be only up from there. He, just like Alonso, he as well had a very good game last night. He goes 2 for 5 last night, so he contributed in that Mets win yesterday, and he's been scoring a lot this season. So, I think that's an underrated part of Lindor's game. He gets He gets a lot of runs. But he's definitely got to get going. That 211 batting average is not fun. But realistically, after the first 11 games, Lindor's been Lindor. I mean, he's been Lindor. 268 batting average. That's right under 270. So you'd like to see that increase just a bit, of course. But after his first 11 games, he's been pretty good, relatively pretty good. Obviously, you'd like to see those numbers spike up a little bit. But, I think we are going to see a better part of Francisco Lindor. And hopefully he steps it up against the Braves or against the Phillies. And we got to also see Pete Alonso, because a 211 batting average and a 212 batting average from your two best players, that ain't going to cut it for a 162 game season. It ain't. So we got to definitely see more at Alonso, especially in a contract year. A lot of Mets fans want to see him get paid. I still want to see him get paid. I want to see him come back. I want to see him be a Met for life. But at the same time, he's got to show David Stearns. He's got to show Steve Cohen. Because, us fans, as much as we want him back, do we really think that just because we want him back, just because we buy his jersey, we love the polar bear? If he does 212 all year, if he has a year like he did last year, I don't think he's going to get paid like we want him to get paid. We think he's worth a lot. We do. But we're fans. We're not David Stearns. We're not Steve Cohen. We're not Carlos Mendoza. We're not the Mets front office. So he's not performing to get a contract for us. He's performing to get a contract for those guys. We know his value, right? Or we think we know his value. But at the end of the day, it's those guys. And if he does what he did last year, he ain't going to get that big contract. He ain't going to be the highest paid first baseman in baseball. He's not. He needs to get going. I'm hoping that 2 for 5 yesterday, that home run yesterday, can break him out of his slump. But then again, we saw him hit a home run just a few weeks ago. And what did he do? Nothing after that. He hits the home run. So May 7th, he hits that home run, right? Last night. Before that, April 27th. Before that, April 22nd. Before that, April 13th. So we're seeing large gaps. And I know home runs aren't the end all be all, but for Pete Alonso, I mean, quite frankly, that's his game. 9 home runs and 19 RBIs. 19 RBIs with 9 home runs. Juan Soto's got 9 home runs. He's got 33 RBIs. Actually, more. That's not counting tonight's RBIs. He went 3 for 5 tonight. And he's only got 9 home runs. I'm not saying you got to have 33 plus RBIs, but come on, let's get 25 plus at least if we're going to have 9 home runs, Pete. Lindor this, Lindor that, McNeil this, McNeil that. Nimmo even gets shade. But Pete Alonso, man. Pete Alonso. You want to be a Met for life. You want to be the fan favorite. You want everybody to buy your jersey. You want everybody to wear polar bear shirts. You want to be, when you retire, an all-time Met. Remember, maybe even the jersey number 20 retired one day. I mean, if he keeps it up, if he keeps up the pace he's been on, he will be there. But if he continues this, what he's done so far throughout the first 36 games, David Stearns ain't going to want to bring him back. Just because we want him back doesn't mean David Stearns will want to. The fan input, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all like, oh, Pete Alonso leaves. We won't be Mets fans. Not true. A lot of people said the same thing about DeGrom. Everybody thought DeGrom was going to come back no matter what. Oh, yeah, the rumors, they're not true. It's DeGrom. He wants to be a Met for life. He's an all-time Met already. Back-to-back Cy Young winner. Nope. He's gone. Only pitcher to get a win for us in the 2022 postseason. Now with the Texas Rangers. So, just because he's a fan favorite doesn't mean he's automatically going to come back. And if he keeps slumping, if he keeps sucking, he is not going to come back. He's not. And I hate to say it, but he won't. So Pete Alonso needs to step it up. Because if we want a wild card shot, we want to go to the postseason this year, if we want to sneak it in, you're going to need Pete Alonso. Another guy I want to talk about is Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil went 3 for 4, but I'm still not buying it. And I was defending him a little bit on Twitter. I don't like everything being thrown at McNeil's way because everybody thinks that McNeil sucks. And quite frankly, he has sucked since he won a Madden title, since he got his contract. Jeff McNeil has sucked. I don't know why. We see him golfing more. We see him get that contract, even though it wasn't a big one, even though it was a team-friendly one. He still got his contract. He got his safety. And since then, he's sucked. Because if he's not batting above 300, everybody knows, everybody says it. If Jeff McNeil's not batting above 300, what in the world does he do for you? Nothing. Squat. 644 OPS, 7 RBIs with a 248 batting average. A 248 batting average for some guys, that's actually really good. That keeps them in the major leagues. But for a guy like Jeff McNeil, who has no power, none whatsoever, none. If you hit below 300, you have no spot on a team that wants to make the playoffs. None. It's a very tradable contract. He's a very tradable player. Maybe there's some GMs that want to take a flyer on him. Former Madden champion. I see the draw. But I don't see the draw with the Mets. This is becoming a problem. If he continues to suck for at least another 2-3 weeks, Mets fans are going to be calling for him to get out of here. They're already doing it. And there's a few more McNeil lovers that are holding on to him. They're holding on to that 2022 Madden title season. But it's been a long stretch since then. And he's sucked. He's sucked a whole lot. So, McNeil, I'd say he's got 2 or 3 more weeks left until you got to pull him from the starting lineup. And he's going to become a bench utility player, a very expensive bench utility player. And we got some prospects that can play middle infield. We got Chet Williams. We got Louis Angel Acuna, even though those two are kind of struggling a little bit. But if they want a spot on the big league team, if they get going, you got to think about it. And a big reason why they got to think about it. But actually, before we get into Christian Scott, let's get into the bullpen. Edwin Diaz, by the way, kind of scaring me a little bit, but we'll save that for another day. Edwin Diaz is my favorite player. I'm not going to talk any smack about my boy Edwin Diaz. He'll get going again. A 2.7 ERA, and I'm freaking out. What the hell? Reed Garrett, though, he's insane this year. He was a guy who some Mets fans, not a lot of Mets fans, some Mets fans were pretty excited that we got him over the offseason, and he's been nothing but spectacular, man. 32 strikeouts in 19 innings, 5-0. He got 5-0 as a relief pitcher in 19 innings. What a start to the year, man, for him in the win-loss record column. But, 32 Ks in 19 innings. He's putting up better numbers than Edwin Diaz put up in 2022. I don't expect him to sustain this all year long, but, if he is a dominant reliever all year long, you got him, Jorge Lopez, who hasn't looked too bad either to start the year. Jorge Lopez, 2.04 ERA. He's been pretty good. Ottavino, he was on a very good stretch before last night when he let up a run and 2 hits. But yeah, the Mets bullpen, it's not too shabby. Not too shabby. Even Sean Reed-Foley, man. Sean Reed-Foley so far this year, only 8 games, only 6 innings, but he hasn't let up a run. So the Mets bullpen is surprisingly good. Not near as good as the Yankees, who have the best bullpen in the MLB, but Reed Garrett he could change the look of the Mets bullpen if he is actually this. I'm not saying this .47 ERA, but maybe sub 2, maybe sub 3. If he's that all year long, the Mets have a very good bullpen. And all you need now is your starting pitching to get going a little bit more. They've been getting going. I've been seeing good starts, especially out of the young guys. Jose Budo, a very good start after a shaky first few innings yesterday, and he's been having a few good starts. So shout out to Jose Budo. We saw Tyler McGill have a good start in his rehab start with Syracuse. I believe like four hitless innings out of him. And then he's obviously Christian Scott, who I'm about to get into. He is really exciting Mets fans. And as he should. I mean, a phenomenal debut out of that kid. But Reed Garrett, man, he can change the Mets bullpen if this is the guy. If this is the guy. So it's definitely exciting me. Once we see this lineup really pick it up, I want to see JD Martinez kind of pick things up too as well. As obviously he just got the call up from AAA, even though he's, a 6-time All-Star. But yeah, that's a joke, obviously. But I want to see this team get going offensively, and once they do take off offensively, I think this team is going to be in very good hands. I think they're going to be a wild card team. But we got to see the offense pick it up, and the two guys who are at the front of the, I guess, headline in the Mets lineup right now is Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. So once those guys step it up, we're going to be good. Because if the bullpen is this good, and if the starting pitching is okay enough to when Kodai Senga comes back, it can really take off, then we're going to be set up for a wild card run. Let's get into this guy, though. Christian Scott, man. In his debut, 6 innings, 6.2 innings, actually. 6 strikeouts, only 5 hits allowed, 1 earned run. After the first inning, he really settled in. I mean, everybody was talking about him in the offseason, in spring training, all last season. Christian Scott. Can he be an ace? Can he be a front end of the rotation starter? I think right now you can say he can be a front end of the rotation starter. Can he be an ace? I have no clue. I don't want to say this kid can be an ace just yet. I think it's way too early to put that on him, but I'm not going to leave it out of the question. He looked phenomenal. And we haven't had a Mets pitching prospect like him in a long, long time. So I'm excited. I'm very excited for this kid. I hope it continues. He looked great. He looked great. He looked like he wanted to be there. He had energy. Even though we ended up losing, Keith from Shane Sons, he had a funny tweet. Jacob DeGrom gif. Oh, lose after a great start? Yeah. Get used to it, bud. That's how it rolls here. All jokes aside, I think Christian Scott can really be a factor in the Mets rotation. And I really hope Budo sticks around too in the rotation because I want to see young guys. I want to see those two specifically in the rotation. I like what I see. I think Christian Scott is a higher ceiling. But I can't leave out Budo too, man. He's been pitching great this year. So you got to give him some credit too. But yeah, we might have a new ace. And it would be nice once Kodai Senga gets back. He was throwing on the mound just last week. He's throwing some live BP. He's hopefully going to start to ramp up a little bit soon and get some rehab starts going. But you got to like what you saw out of him in that first start. You got to like what you saw out of him. He's going to be going up against the Braves in his next start. So big start for him. But yeah, that basically wraps it up for me on Christian Scott and the Mets. And let's get into some Yankees, and then we'll wrap it up in just a few seconds. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll get into some Yankees. The best win percentage in the American League. 5 consecutive wins out of them. Aaron Judge going off. Finally, we're going to talk about it in just a second. All right, we're back. We're back fresh off a Knicks win, fresh off a Mets win last night, and fresh off 5 wins in a row for the New York Yankees. And a lot of that has to do with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge in his last 15 games really starting to get going like his former MVP self. 333 batting average, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, over 1,000 OPS in those 15 games. I mean, with him and Soto in that lineup, I said it all off season. I said it all going into the season. Everybody's talking about the LA Dodgers, super team this, super team that. They're going to win the World Series. No, they're not. The New York Yankees. The New York Yankees, especially when Cole gets back, they're really going to take off. Now that Judge is going, Soto's still going, Anthony Volpe's still getting on base enough to be at that top of the batting order. They're going to take off. They're going to take off. They're just getting started. They already got the best bullpen in the league. The rotation is doing just good enough. Carlos Rodon, fantastic on the mound tonight. 6.1 innings, 7 Ks, 2 earned runs, lowered his ERA to a 3.56. He's still got to get going a little bit more. I want to see more out of him. Like I said earlier on in the season, he was brought here not to be a middle of the rotation guy to have a good start every now and then. No, you were brought here to be the second ace, the 1B, not the 2, not the number 2, not the number 3. No, you were brought here to be the 1B, right behind Garrett Cole. You were brought here to be an ace, and now that he's down, you have to be the 1A. So he has to step up and have more starts like he did tonight. But Judge, I mean, another great night from him at the plate. 333, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, or 1,000 OPS. You see it right there. Now that he's going with the whole entire Yankees lineup, Soto can take a few weeks off. Volpe can take a few weeks off as long as 2 out of 3 of those guys are going, those 3 specifically. Soto and Judge are obviously on another level than Volpe. I'll say that right now. But Volpe, he's still a factor for the Yankees. He's been all year. Just his speed, his ability to get on base. He's great. But Soto and Judge, those are 2 of the best hitters in the game. Judge, I say it all the time, when he's healthy, he's the best hitter in the game. These are best hitter in the game numbers these last 15 games. So he continues to do this, and he can definitely continue to do this. We've seen it before. Hit over 300, hit 62 home runs just 2 years ago. He can continue to do this 100%. And I expect him to. And if I was any other American League team, you'd be scared. Because the Houston Astros have been the team that they have not been able to get over, and they've just been beating them up. The first 2 times they played them, they've just been beating them up. Astros can't figure them out this year. They can't. And now with Judge going, it's wraps. It's wraps. Yankees are really going to take off. The bullpen has been pitching great. A little shaky tonight. Ian Hamilton let up a run too, but all year Yankees bullpen has been fantastic. So through the 38 games so far, they've had the best bullpen in the entire MLB. Rodon, great start out of him. Obviously, like I said before, you got to see more. But tonight, pitched great. Soto, I mean, phenomenal. The best signing in the offseason. I saw it was not signing. Best acquisition, I should say, in the offseason. Best offseason signing so far, yes, has been Shota Imanaga. But Juan Soto is a difference maker. He's a difference maker. He's having his best season yet, too. He's not a guy who hits above 300 all the time. I mean, just last year, I think he hit like 260. No, last year he hit above 260. 2 years ago, he hit 260. Yeah, he's not a guy who's going to hit 300 all the time. So he's playing the best he's ever played. Anybody who thinks he's leaving the Bronx, they're out of their mind. He's having so much fun there. They're going to win the World Series easily. With Soto playing this good, Judge now starting to get going, the rotation, best bullpen in baseball. What more? What more? They got all the pieces. All the pieces. So, I mean, what more can you say about the Yankees? I think they're just getting started. They're just getting started. And that's going to wrap it up. I mean, got nothing more to say. Knicks, hopefully we can get a sweep. Nice, easy rest before and if we face the Boston Celtics. We'd love to see Boston. That's all I'll say. We'd love to see Boston. Brunson, fantastic performance, man. Missing the entire second quarter, still finishing the night off with 29 points. I mean, he is the best athlete in New York. Probably the best athlete in a long, long time. I mean, Aaron Judge, obviously, he's up there with him. But, dude, Jalen Brunson is nuts. That's what I'll finish the show on. All right. Thanks for watching. Whether you're on X, whether you're on YouTube, make sure you go over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button. I'm only a few subscribers away from 300. So if you're not subscribed, go help me get to 300, please. Deuces.